So, are we live now and do you hear me? Usually I try to make sure that everything works when we are beginning the broadcast, but now I seem to have missed something. The microphone was correct, but it was muted, so you couldn't hear me. And that's pretty bad when I can't remember even what I have said before. But hello, now we are live. Hope to see many of you today. And we are going to have a bit of a special evening today. We are going to have Supernova quarterly free roll. So we are going to talk about playing in really hard tables. Probably because Supernova free roll is usually it's going to be a very tough table to play. And now it works. That's nice. It's always better when things work than when they don't. And I'm Aarnimetsa, and I have been a Supernova for 3 years. I have been a poker coach for more than 3 years. So that's a short introduction for me. In the big 109, I'm not feeling so confident anymore, especially when the 10 hits. I think that my ace king is going to be good some part of the time, because he has just called me pre-flop, so I don't think that he would have any of those pocket pairs in range, so I'm not afraid of sets, but I'm slightly afraid of some flushes. And of course I should be afraid of 10 jack, because he just calls me. I thought I'm going to be ahead of him enough times. When he bets just half a pot, I need to be right about 1 in 4 times. So I think I'm getting the odds when, and here we are hitting quite a nice hand. Not nuts by any means, and then there is going to be one random player all in. And we are having multiple players with us on the pot. It's quite a horrible situation to be in. But Dayah, perhaps it's time for your introduction.
Good evening everybody, my name is Dayah and I'm a Supernova as well. This is my 3rd year, and what should I tell this time? I've got a little bit of a flu, so pardon if my sound isn't very clear, but I try my best. And like Aarnimetsa, my fiancé, said earlier, we have that Supernova free roll today, so obviously I'm gonna play that as well. So I'm gonna be here only for the first hour or so, and if I get busted early, then I'm coming back, but otherwise Arni will have the most of the talking part today.
And Kaleon, it's nice to have you online. I tried to reach you on Skype that you were missing at the Supernova free roll. Hope you got the participation done there. So I hope you registered to the Supernova free roll. If you didn't yet, I think you should do, because the value is going to be really nice. Probably the value is going to be more than $300 for every player. And there's no late reg, so if you miss it, you really miss it.
So that starts in 50 minutes, right?
Right. We are having a slightly interesting spot in here. When we are having showdown equity and we are trying to get there cheaply, I think we could have bet there, but it's going to be just for protection value that we are betting against hands that we are quite sure that we are going to beat on the river, but are going to make our life harder in the future streets if we don't bet, because then they can bluff quite a few spots. On the bottom right, the ace-7 suited, if it wouldn't be suited I wouldn't have been calling it. But when we are 5-handed, we can hit quite a nice and strong hands with the suited aces. And when we get in with such a good price compared to the stacks that are left, it's going to be good. And with ace-7 we are going to carry on. We are having a backdoor flush draw, and of course we are having two pair draw. And Kaleon, that's good. I just wanted to be sure that you are registering, because it's something of the supernova value that you should always use, because there's no harm in using it. And after we are busting our backdoor flush draw and he's starting to bet a bit bigger, it's still a little compared to pot, but it's going to be a higher ace so much of the time that I'm going to be folding here. If we would have hit a heart there, then I would have called the second time as well. But without a heart, I don't think that it's going to be good to call when it has been four-handed and the same guy bets twice, once to a four-handed pot and once to a three-handed pot. There's always going to be a better ace. And I was actually really surprised to see only ace-9 there.
Yeah, the Slava had a flush draw, but since there was already two callers, well, one better and caller at the turn, I think you're never at a good place there with such a bad kicker with your ace. Colin is asking about that three hand.
I think it's possible. I'm trying to grab it here. We are just having these four tables now that we are playing in, so it's quite easy for me to... I think with the threes hand on the river, we just checked there. First we got a set mining call in, and when it is on the river and practically nothing hits that should be there, I think that's a spot that we can do a thin value bet and hope to get called with an ace high, because that's the most probable that they are going to have. So I think that's kind of a missed value bet, but it's not that big of a deal. And we are having a loose player open, a loose player call. We are having less than 20 BBs with king queen off, and we are going to shove it in and hope that they are not having the best of hands and they are hopefully folding.
Well, that's surprising.
Well, calling with queen 10 off, it's going to be good for us, but that's one of the few hands that we are fine if they are calling us. And we are making a c-bet in position even though king queen 6 hits his range, because most of the time when people in MTTs are checking, they are also folding to a bet, so we are trying to get it cheaply. We are having some showdown equity, so we could have checked back as well, but I like getting it down there, because it also, even though we are opening from cutoff, it still hits our range as well, and we should be fine.
Now that we don't have that many tables yet, could you open up the Justin TV chat so we can follow that as well? Because I think there might be some people who are only there, so
it's going to be still slightly hard for me to search it. You should be able to talk while I'm trying to...
Yeah, it's my bad that I'm too interested in what you're doing than just talking. But yeah, we have our own chat in pokerimania.com/forum, as you can see on our stream. So feel free to join us. Then you can see the chat and we follow that. We also see the chat from the Justin TV, but we prefer if you use ours, because there's a lot more people at the moment, and it's getting more interesting that way.
Yeah, we are liking to have our own chat on because our own chat is going to be it's open 24 hours a day, and at the Finnish side we are having some great discussions even though there are no coachings running. But at Justin TV side it's really hard to get discussion going on when the chat over the broadcast isn't on, so we are having a better discussion going on at the pokerimania.com usually. Could you get the audio a bit louder? I can try, but it isn't right now, it isn't easy because we are at 100% and we are both in a flu, so practically I can't even get my normal level of sound coming out of me, or my voice is fading a bit, so I'm trying to save it by talking a bit less or talking. I can try to get the audio boost working on the next break, so I'm going to be shutting down the broadcast.
And since I have to leave in an hour to play my Supernova quarterly free roll game, it's harder for you to continue without me for the rest of the evening.
We are going to value re-race. I'm not afraid of that he would have a flush, and I'm just thinking about what's the maximum that he will call without a flush. We can be value owning ourselves if he has a flush and we are not going to fold anymore. And he had a flush, so and that's also a bit worrying, because when we are betting as much as we thought that he could call without a flush, because I think that it's going to be quite likely when he's not betting the turn that he's not having a flush there, or it's more likely, because then if he would bet there, it would be leaving just less than a pot bet on the river if he would bet the turn as well. But I think when he was also a bit of a passive kind of player, I think that might have been something to take into account as well. We have been betting with an overpair, and now a backdoor flush came through and an ace came through. I think there are going to be a lot of ace highs that he can call two streets with, so I'm going to be check calling here mainly. I don't think that I would have gotten any hands from his range to fold on the river, or like I don't think that any better hand would fold the river, so there is no sense for me to bluff the river. We are still set mining, and now we didn't hit what we wanted, but we hit something nice. And it's going to be not nearly as nice when we got the flush through.
How about now?
It's still not as nice, but it's going to be nice because it will be rare for them to have a flush when they have both checked the turn, so I don't believe that they have a flush, and I think that we are going to win the pot. But when they aren't having the flush and the board is going to be pretty scary, I don't think that we are going to get much value out of that.
True.
And we are 3-betting ace king for sure, and we are trying to this is a bit interesting. We are going to c-bet this still, and about half a pot, and this is going to be not as nice pot as we would have won it, but it's going to be weak to check fold the ace king, and I think that we are going to get we are going to get part of his hands to fold, and we are not giving him an opportunity to bluff us away from our equity. Yes, I think that if he's going to be shoving there, he's going to be shoving with a better hand all the time. If you have any ideas on what games should I have here, I'm open for suggestions, and I'm going to open the games that look interesting, and I'm going to play only Hold'em. That's something that I need to make sure, but I think that there will be some interesting games going on. Free roll starts in 40 minutes, so it starts at 9 o'clock sharp.
And we have still quite a different kind of games here. They are all, of course, MTT games, but we have Turbo Knockout, we have 6 Max Hyper Turbos, we have big $109 80k guaranteed, 12k guaranteed, and a lot more to come. So we are open for any ideas, and I think we like turbo tournaments quite nicely.
We are going to prefer non-turbo tournaments at the beginning of this coaching, because we are going to get more edge and more interesting spots even while deep when we are having turbos, but we are opening all the nice, and this is probably as bad as you can get it in with queens against aces and ace queen. Of course the ace queen guy is probably hammering his mouse as well, but that wasn't a nice spot to be in.
I think it was a bad call from him.
With ace queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, or actually I think he shoved. Like UTG opened, he shoved and we got queens on. Let's see about it. No, we were UTG, we opened UTG plus 1 shoves, and then he's getting it in for against UTG open and UTG plus 1 shove, so it was really a quite a terrible situation for him.
Yeah, I was just about to say that they are hyperactive in that tournament. The 3-bet stats were horrible, but I guess they just had a really Saturday feeling there.
I'm trying to be like a kid in a candy store to open a lot of interesting tournaments here.
Yeah, so there is a progressive knockout that we just got on instead of that crazy MTT, and it's 180 players, $11, and I guess it will be quite interesting. That format is really nice. I have never played those, but I have seen you and some other guy playing them, and by knocking out someone you get part of his bounty, and then part of the bounty goes to your progressive own bounty. How do you say that? So the guy that busts you, for example, gets some of that money that you got earlier on busting somebody else out. That wasn't probably the best explanation for the whole system, but you'll see.
Half of the money goes into the progressive knockout. The one that has the highest progressive knockout is marked with the red target sign, and so we can see that when there's 750 bounty on someone, that he has knocked out 1 player, and when there is a $10 bounty on him, we can see that he has knocked out 2 players. And if you would knock him out, we would get $5 instantly to our account, and we would also get $5 added to our bounty. If there is a 3 times turbo starting, we can add the 3 times turbo. So when does a $3 turbo start, Kauris?
Are you sure? Those are so crazy. I kind of hate them, but Kauris has had some really nice success in those, so I can't blame him for asking for that.
I like them because they are going to have. I can see only like 3 times turbo Courchevel, and it sounds like a French Omaha that someone has been drunk while listening to the rules or something. I don't even know the rules for Courchevel, so we are definitely not going to play it.
Good. And no Omaha. I think there is no teaching value at all if you start to play an Omaha MTT.
Actually, there's Sunday Million Sat for 3 times turbo. We are taking that because it's going to be a nice game with little variance. If you can say any game that's going to be 3 times turbo to be a little variance. And we could talk about a bit when the $3x turbo start. What kind of games they are and how to play those.
Obviously, if you started to register those, you gotta beat them because now Kauris is behaving very boldly by asking you to beat his second place.
How much did you win when you were second place? So Galeon has either been drunk while someone has explained the Omaha rules, or he really knows how to play Courchevel. And he explains that it's same with as Omaha High, but with 5 cards, and pre-flop there is already one of the flop cards shown. So in the flop they are just dealing 2 cards and you are having 5 cards in your hand. So if you are having a good hand every time in Omaha, you are going to have a great hand every time with Courchevel, and I'm betting that if you are not drawing to the nuts, you are going to lose some money in those games. And the 3 times turbos, if you are trying to follow me there, I'm suggesting that they are games that they are going to be really expensive games. I actually, when I have checked twice, it becomes pretty mandatory for him to try to steal the pot. And I don't believe that when I have a Queen 10 I'm going to have a pretty nice bluff catcher there anyways. And when he doesn't bet the flop, it's going to be bluff catching for me, because I think most likely that he doesn't have a king there. He doesn't have a king there, but he can have quite a nice hand anyway.
I didn't see that one coming at all.
It's interesting. He didn't. He was the original opener, and I was calling with Queen 10. I was a bit surprised on. Because they flop get check check check. So.
Why didn't he check on the flop? He was too afraid to push everybody else out of the pot.
Yeah, he had a too nice of a hand. I think that's one of the places that you are going to get value for kings. You are going to get value from draws, and there are a lot of. And this is also an interesting spot on the top left corner. His push is just screaming small pocket pair or medium pocket pair, but when we have ace jack, we are not going to get it in as good as we would hope, and there's 2 players behind us as well. So something like if we are on the big blind and we are having 15 big blinds, then we are going to call it, but right now it's just going to be non-profitable.
Yeah, originally we are holding this MTT coaching on Sundays, but when we found out that tomorrow on a Sunday evening there is gonna be a Finland ice hockey Olympic game, we thought that there is no sense to compete against that. So that's why we are holding this coaching on Saturday, and I hope you all got the message.
Yeah, this is quite a special day for us to be holding it, but when it's Finland Canada, it's going to be too hard for us to compete against that we are not yet that interesting.
Not quite yet, but maybe in a few years' time.
Yeah, we are hoping that they are going to move the Olympic Games another day because there's going to be a poker coaching going on.
A girl must have some dreams.
The YND is going to be quite close to getting a good player mark from me. Actually, Sly Fox is going to get a
Where is he from?
China, Hong Kong.
Because I have a feeling I've heard that nickname before.
Jack 10 suited would be the absolute bottom of my opening range there. That's like the absolute bottom. Absolute bottom when you are bored and you are playing just a few tables.
There's always that danger that you are playing not enough tables and you get into the trouble because you need to pick up some hands to get some action.
And Kaleon has played Courchevel sometimes at our local €5 bar sit and go games. That sounds interesting. But that means that you have been drunk while you have been listening to the rules. Like, I think that's going to be the rule, not the exception, that people playing €5 games in a bar, they're going to be drunk.
But I'm surprised that there are players that are playing that game in a Finnish, not that a big of a city, in a bar far away, because I have probably never heard that game before. And I bet there are quite a lot of players who doesn't know the rules, so if you even know some part of the rules, I guess it's very plus easy to be on those games.
But well, when we are looking at the games that we are seeing right now, quite unsurprisingly the lowest buy-in game we are having the best table in. And usually we are not playing the $100 games, or something like $100 Turbo would be a horrible game to play on PokerStars if there aren't any extra satellites going into it. But when it's the big $109 game, it's going to be better than the most $109 games because it's going to have a lot of satellites and it's going to have a lot of players that are getting in there from a satellite, and it's always going to make the games better. And with the ace queen there, I'm quite certain that we are going to be getting it in.
Yeah, it definitely looks that way. That there are some action going on.
And we are getting it in. That was actually a bad call for set mining. I just thought that usually for set mining you would need to have like 20 times as much left in the stacks that you are required to call, and when we have $75 to call, then it's going to be that we would need about 1,500 stacks. But now when there are 3 players already in, I'm going to relax it a bit, and we are still having something like 16 times the amount to call. But that's usually the call 20 rule, and if it's going to be a limp spot, we are requiring 30 times as much, because in a limp spot it's less likely that we are getting our opponent's full stack. And we got a huge spot there, and I almost missed it. and I almost missed the royal flush, or I missed the royal flush. We had a straight and a flush, but not the royal one. And he calls with 6 ace suited. Well, good for us.
Definitely. Now we have a nice big stack and we can start fighting properly.
I think Crazy Pineapple is a game that even PokerStars isn't offering, even though they are offering a lot of weird games lately. So, Helen, could you explain also the rules about the Crazy Pineapple?
And as usual, at the end of this session, we will put this video to YouTube channel. Poker Aarnimetsa has its own YouTube channel, and from there you can find all of our previous coachings. Most of them are in Finnish. There is over 140 of them already, so there's quite many hours. But we already have had 3 English MTT sessions, so please take a look. You can subscribe to our channel so you can always see what's going on there if you have missed our MTT coaching for some reason.
But you shouldn't be missing them. They are good.
That was a bad hand. We got busted out of that.
The big 109 game.
Yeah.
Against the bad players, or bad players ace queen, and that's like the best you can hope for when you are actually right now when I'm on a hot 16.5. I'm wondering what the frick I'm doing there. And probably you can explain because I can't.
Brain fart. Maybe. You shouldn't be there with that hand in that position.
In that spot. Yes.
No.
Everything is correct that I shouldn't be there. So don't do as I do as I say, and don't get in there with 10-8 suited. It looks prettier than it is. And I probably shouldn't be calling this, but when he's betting so little and we are drawing to the idiot straight, which is appropriately named because you are losing your money when you are hitting it. And luckily we didn't hit it, and even the guy who got 2 pair on the river, he was too afraid to bet because there are too many straights out there. I guess that should be what he should have been thinking.
And then there's always the question that are they thinking, or are you overthink what they could think? It seems that there's quite a nit next to you.
Yeah, it's even though I have 500 hands on him, I just don't want to mark him as someone that I want to avoid because he's playing so tight. I think I'm going to steal his stack most of the time that he's going to be on the table.
You rarely see that big of a nit on these games.
Yeah, and he is like having 0% cutoff steal out of 500 hands. Not a single playable hand to the cutoff.
So I guess that he only really plays the really best of the hands, so it's easy to guess his range. And maybe I even shouldn't be talking about guessing, it's more of a knowing. You know his range.
If his range is going to be most of the time just top 5%, it's going to be really easy for us to know that where we are against him, because he's not having any weak hands, and we should only be afraid of him when we are having large cards on the flop.
So now we got some backup tables, and there is also that 3x turbo which was asked, so no worries.
We got them tables.
But I guess you wanted to talk a bit more about that structure.
Yeah, when we are getting there. I don't think it makes too much sense of talking about the structure while we aren't there. So, sorry. You aren't going to hear any 3 times turbo strategy before it's starting.
Now that's kind of a teasing, don't you think? We have something nice, but we don't reveal you that yet, and we might give you some really nice information if you just hang on there. And if everything goes good on our part. I can feel my brain freezing. I guess I'm getting a bit of a fever. So pardon me and my ideas today. They might not be that clear.
We might have been calling them, but without position it's really hard to play the king-queen profitably when we haven't hit and there are 2 players in position compared to us. So we are just going to check fold it there. And we are having a nice hand to re-steal there, and he's only opening min-raise, so I think we are getting a good price to re-steal there.
And I think that's a really good hand for it because it flops nicely. You can hit many kind of table cards, and then most of the time the cards that call you, they are
not dominating me.
Yep, exactly.
But so this is going to be a bit of a harder coaching for us because we are both, I don't say that we are suffering from a flu, but we are not feeling our best. Let's put it this way. So we are not as loud as usual, but we are trying to get better and trying to get the technology working for us.
But then it would be so awesome that today, when we are not in that good of a shape, then we both get like really high-end games. For example, in that Supernova quarterly free roll, and we'll see you at the final table and fight for those.
Now I'm going to be hoping that he's going to be shipping over me or getting a tight call there, so I'm trying to induce him to do something stupid.
I hope he's not from Finland.
He's from Sweden, so we are pretty inclined to take his money.
Not that we are not taking any Finnish money, but there is always that chance that they are from Finland and maybe following us. That was my point.
But there is always a chance that if they are from any part of the world that they are following us, because we are now holding this in English.
True. And hopefully we'll get more attention. But now we are just trying to gather really good material, and feel free to tell us to all of your poker friends. It's completely free. When's the last time you got completely free MTT coaching from 2 supernovas?
That starts to sound like a TV shop commercial.
And
You are
there's
not-
more! You can also leave your hand to our hand analysis on the forum. Yeah, we have PokerAimania.com. It comes in Finnish and also now in English.
So you are getting 2 languages in one.
And you are more than welcome to learn some Finnish. It will be fun.
Now, even I don't believe you, because learning Finnish for an outsider most probably isn't going to be any fun.
But you cannot know that for sure.
Yeah, I have never tried to learn Finnish as an outsider, so...
True. But maybe there is one thing that like 20 years ago when you had to learn Finnish grammar rules, you hated that, right? So maybe there is one.
I know that I would hate it today to learn the grammar rules. I just know how they work, but learning the rules would be horrible. Learning the grammar is always going to be horrible.
Well, it's almost the case in any language. The grammar rules, they are the most boring things you can find in learning a new language.
And the least useful. So feel free to tell us why we are screwing up our English language.
I guess not, we are not native speakers. There's so much value in that game, on that Turbo Knockout.
But when it's turbo, it's going to be hard for us to extract the edge from the players when we are playing with such a short stack. Like most of the guys there, we are having only something like 4 to 2 effective big blinds. So it's going to be slightly hard for us to make it better. And we are having quite a nice stack, so we are not trying to just getting the money. Even though with our stack we probably, if you start folding, we would get to the money, but we are not aiming just to cash. We are aiming to be cashing high. So we are aiming, or in the MTT tournaments, you are not aiming to cash, you are not aiming to win. You are aiming to maximize your equity in every situation. And when you are maximizing your equity, you are balancing the act of cashing and you are balancing the act of winning. And usually at the early stages of the MTT tournament, you are mostly just trying to win the tournament, because the farther away from the money you are, the less there is going to be difference in the value of chips. And the value of chips in a way that there is a way to estimate your equity in a tournament poker. And because some equity is going to be leaking out of the game, like if you are finishing the tournament at the first position, you are always having all of the chips, but you are not winning all of the money. So the money is leaking out somewhere, and you need to take it into account that the money is leaking out when the winner isn't going to take all the money. And you are doing it by assigning chips different values depending on how much chips do you have. And it's like pretty logical that if the top prize pays just 10% of the prize pool, your chip stack can never be more valuable than just top stack, than the top prize of the tournament. And this is also a nice thing to learn on the Turbo Knockout. We are having to call less than half the pot, so we are pretty inclined to call any 2 cards. And when we are getting King 9 off, it's going to be such a great hand in comparison to most of the cards we could have dealt, that is going to be an insta call for us. But usually when the situation in the MTT is that you need to call just half of the pot, you should be calling with pretty much any hand, and at least any suited hand, if it's going to be just against one player. And if it's going to be against 2 players, then it's going to be different, because it gets harder for you to get the required equity. And we are going to re-steal again from against the against the cutoff steel, and we are also resting or 3-betting a bit light here because the closecraft is opening so wide on the button, so we are going to be quite inclined to 3-bet him a lot. And Kauris, in total there are 4 users chatting. Yes, and that makes it harder for us to be discussing here about important things. And on the 540 turbo knockout, we are going to be shoving it. If it gets to us unopened, we are going to be the ones shoving it because the stacks behind us are just 7 big blinds deep, so we are getting quite and this is not that nice of a spot when the only big stack there is. We are almost getting the right price, but we might be doing something slightly spooky here and not risking all of our chips against Comitivi, but we are trying to play some position games and make it harder for him. When we got a small stack in, we got all these stacks in, it's going to be really hard for us to realize the equity and play the position games. I was just hoping to isolate ourselves against just him. We are having a semi-strong, not that strong of a flush draw and top pair with some value, and nobody has bet there, so we are going to be betting and we are going to be getting it. After the bet we are pretty much going to get it in. I think we are not going to get it in in a way that we are completely dead, but there might be some pretty bad spots for us. And luckily we got the pot and we increased our equity by a ton.
That's true. But I think there might be, or I know there are more listeners than chatters, so feel free to say hello and identify yourselves. We are not that scary. You can ask us anything about poker, about life. We may even answer you something. And I hope you get the feeling that we are quite relaxed here, so no need to worry about anything.
And we are giving you an answer if you ask something, but the answer can be pretty much everything under the sun. So feel free to ask anything and we'll try to answer you, but the answer might be unexpected.
Now there was a royal flush on that knockout, and unfortunately there is a huge stack.
No, that's not unfortunately when we are having...
Not at this hand. Now it's a good thing that when we have a hand.
And because we are having so many... We are going to do something that's really going to be... look stupid, but we are going to try to get the worst players in the pot with us. So we are raising really small there. I was also thinking about limping, but when we are limping we are likely to get a lot of players in. And with pocket aces we are getting it in every time. And we got it in nicely, but we will still... We draw the losing end of the stick. And we are going to a break, and now Dayah is going to say bye-bye to us, because we are most likely missing her for a while, because she's going to play her own Supernova pre-roll, and we hope to go far in either one of those games, and we'll see Dayah later on the rail, or then we'll see her returning to the commentator role. But now we are going to a break, and we are going to be as good condition as we can be, and as refreshed as we can be by utilizing our brakes correctly.
See you in 5.
Yeah.